Hi, I'm Jasmine Braithwaite, certified hypnotherapist, and today we're talking about what hypnosis actually is. When most people hear the word hypnosis, they immediately think about stage hypnosis, swinging watches, people falling asleep instantly, or acting silly on stage. But that's actually only one branch of hypnosis. Honestly, that's a very common association. Because stage hypnosis is what most people have seen on television or clips online. It's catchy, so it gets more attention. But hypnosis in real life, especially therapeutic or self development hypnosis, is actually much more subtle, natural, and psychologically grounded than most people think. Hypnosis is not mind control, and it's not unconsciousness. It's a natural state of focused attention and absorbed awareness that human beings experience regularly in everyday life. Hypnosis involves attention, imagination, emotional responsiveness, subconscious conditioning, and nervous system engagement. Hypnosis narrows and stabilizes attention rather than eliminating awareness. Most people remain aware during hypnosis, and people can actually hear the hypnotist the entire time. And the interesting thing is that most people have already experienced forms of hypnosis naturally without realizing it. For example, driving somewhere familiar and barely remembering parts of the route. Maybe you're driving on the highway on your way home and you miss your exit. Well, if you really think back on it, you were probably deep in thought, focused on what you were thinking about. And in that moment, you were in a state of trance, um, aka hypnosis. Another example is becoming emotionally absorbed in a movie. Was there ever a time that you were so focused on a movie that could have been sitting there and watching it, and the person next to you or someone that somebody was trying to call your name, and you didn't really hear them for another 3 or 4 times that they attempted to call your name, and finally you snapped out of your state of trance and actually responded to them? Hmm, might be starting to come a little more clear to you. Losing track of time is another example while you're reading or even creating. A lot of times, when people get engulfed in a creative project or a writing endeavor, you can write for hours. Or I remember I used to sew clothing and I would start my project at 10 a.m. and I'd look up and it'll be 3 p.m. I barely drank enough water. I barely stopped to eat. And I was so focused on what I was doing and getting every stitch right that I kind of lost track of everything else. I was just tranced in that moment, in the hypnosis of it all. And another example is becoming deeply immersed in music, listening to a song, allowing yourself to fully envelop what you're feeling in those moments, listening to the melodies, listening to the words. It's almost like nothing matters and you lose track of time because the music sounds so good to your ears. That is an example of a hypnotic trance state. And the very last example I'll give, an example that you probably all can think of: daydreaming. Daydreaming is definitely a state of hypnosis and trance. You are totally in the moment of whatever it is you're thinking about. You could be dreaming about a person and what it would be like to have a certain type of conversation with them. You could be thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner. You could be thinking about where you may want to go on vacation next time around. And someone might be calling your name, something might be going on, and you're not paying attention because you are daydreaming. You are in a hypnotic state. Um, well, actually, one more example. Actually, I'll give you a couple more examples. Mentally replaying emotional experiences. Now, this one, I think we have all done that. You could think about a moment in time where you may have wished you had said something else and it brought up some emotions for you. Or Something of that sort where you keep replaying in your mind like, oh, I should have did this. Oh, I should have did that. And there's emotion attached to it. And nothing else really matters because you're thinking about that thing, that emotional moment. That's a state of trance once again. And, you know, I know a lot of people don't really think this, but becoming highly focused during prayer, meditation, or a visualization. That's right, I said meditation. Meditation is a form of hypnosis. Visualizing is too. And when you're praying, if you really think about if you are a praying person, in those moments you are focusing on your prayer, where it's being delivered, what you're saying, and you don't even want to think about anything else. You're focused on sending that prayer wherever it needs to go. And that is a form of concentrated awareness. And these are all examples of focused absorption, as I mentioned before. Hypnosis is not some strange supernatural event. We do it all the time. It's a natural human ability connected to attention and imagination. Human beings naturally move in and out of different levels of focus and absorption all the time. I hope that these examples gave you some ideas about that. Attention shapes experience. What we repeatedly focus on affects emotional and physical responses. Trance states are already occur naturally in our daily life. Hypnosis works with the process the brain's already uses. People often use hypnosis for stress reduction, confidence, habit change, motivation, emotional regulation, relaxation, focus, and reinforcing healthier patterns. So, hypnosis is less about losing control and more about learning how attention, imagination, and conditioning already influence our daily experience. The subconscious mind responds strongly to repetition, emotional intensity, imagination, and focused awareness. Repeated thoughts and emotional patterns can become conditioned responses over time. The nervous system learns through repetition and emotional association. Human beings are constantly reinforcing mental and emotional patterns, often without realizing it. A song triggering an emotional memory instantly. I'm sure some of you have experienced that in the past, where you can immediately remember the time and place that you first heard that song and the emotion that you had in that moment because you were enjoying the song or feeling whatever you felt during that song and the emotion was happening at the same time. A memory kind of gelled itself right in your subconscious to be pulled up and referenced whenever you hear that song in the future. Anxiety becomes automatic through repeated fear patterns, actually. And rehearsing an embarrassing moment or self criticism internally is an example of that. For example, has there ever been a time where you forgot to put your ringer on silence and you were in a social environment, whether that's with family, in school, in a religious setting, um, maybe at work, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 here comes your phone with this loud song. Or maybe you were watching a video quietly and you didn't really want everyone to know the video you were listening to, but all of a sudden it's loud for everybody to hear. Well, you may have gone home that night or somewhere later on that week, within the week, and you thought, wow, that was really embarrassing. And the criticism starts happening internally. And you might keep thinking about it over and over again. I can tell you, for me, when I was in school, when I was in college, uh, and cell phones had actually just come out when I was in college. It was a flip phone. And all the songs sounded generic on phones back then. They didn't sound like the actual tracks. I think this was in the maybe around 2004, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there, and there was this little generic version of the song Big Pimpin'. I'll never forget it. And we were all quietly taking an exam in class. And then all of a sudden, the song Big Pimpin' starts blasting in the class. And I know I replayed that song over and over in my head. I mean, that moment. I could still see that moment right now, as if I was right there, because the music was there and the emotion of it was there. And I definitely replayed that in my head for quite a while. The years I've grown and realized, this happens to everyone. It actually is a common thing now. Back then, not so much, but now it is. And I talked myself out of that habit of self-criticism in moments such as that. So maybe you can relate like that as well. Building confidence through repeated positive reinforcement is the opposite of that we can also do in a focused, absorbed state. So that's kind of like, studying for an exam. You repeatedly look at your note cards and you're like, yes, I've got this. And it's positive. It's a positive thing when you are in that focused state. You're reading your note cards, you're writing them out, writing more of them, testing yourself. And you can lose track of time in those moments too. Those are focused, almost hypnotic states. You might forget to eat, you might forget to drink water. And it's all just natural stuff that we as humans do all the time. Emotional reactions become conditioned over time. And the way they are conditioned, they can be reconditioned as well. This isn't magic. It's part of how human conditioning works. Hypnosis works with these natural processes intentionally rather than unconsciously. Hypnosis helps people work more intentionally with attention, imagination, emotional enforcement and reinforcement, habit patterns, and nervous system responses. Hypnosis is not mind control, and it's not brainwashing. Hypnosis is not magic. And hypnosis is not sleep. Hypnosis is not supernatural power. You may hear, like, if you've ever seen those, those stage hypnosis and all that, and they say sleep, and they're snapping their fingers, sleep, or deep sleep. Those are just conditioned words that are used to put the person in a certain state. Just like we hear that certain song and it puts us in a certain state. Well, the hypnotist is putting them in a certain state by using the same words each time. Something like that. So yes, it's not a supernatural power. Most people are aware the entire time. If your doorbell rings, you'll go get it and you'll come back. You generally cannot be forced to do things completely against your values. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's no hypnotist that'll force you to think anything differently than you want to think because you are aware the whole time. A lot of the fear around hypnosis comes from the entertainment portrayals that I was talking about, kind of like in the movies, rather than how hypnosis is actually used in educational or therapeutic settings. The more we understand how attention, imagination, emotional conditioning, and focused awareness works, the less mysterious hypnosis becomes. And the more we realize these processes are already happening in everyday life, present focused awareness, emotional awareness, intentional attention, and habit reinforcement, understanding ourselves becomes more clear. If you are curious about hypnosis, subconscious conditioning, attention, or personal growth, feel free to continue exploring this channel. In future episodes, we'll go deeper into how hypnosis works, common misconceptions, and how these patterns affect everyday life. Thanks for being here. Free the present, clarify the future.